to disintegrate every one of those organisms in the body.
Amazing.
It wasn't even a long treatment, but once again, if you remember, as we said, the concept of the singer who breaks the glass,
right.
and again, it was only affecting those particular organisms.
Well, were there experiments run in which they would, let's say, go through that whole energy band, let's say, for a microsecond, and in a way wipe out everything on everybody, on anybody, so that there wouldn't really be any pathogenic organism left.
Just clean out everything, in other words, right?
Yes, clean out the whole system.
Clean house. Why not?
Well, I can tell you that there was one letter that was written between the doctors, and the letter said, "One day, while experimenting in the laboratory, we hit a frequency that shattered glass of a particular shape. It took the mossy substance off the leather chair. In fact, as they wrote to one another, it said that every disease organisms that were in the test animals in the entire laboratory were all killed instantly with one frequency." Now, that was the good news. The bad news is they did not write what the frequency was in the letter to each other. They did not have it in any place whatsoever. And in fact, the story ended that they said that they pinched each other to see if they were still alive. All the test animals survived, and the only hint we have is that the particular form of glass, one particular shape, was broken in the laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
That could be duplicated.
Absolutely.
Yes. And you have all of the information necessary to rebuild that frequency device? Or do you have a frequency device too? Right now.
The information exists.
We're talking
to
hot
duplicate
seat here.
Yeah. We're saying that there are frequency devices, and we'll just let you know that there are researchers all over the world who are using these particular principles and are very, very close to coming out with the same information. Now, they aren't working on the microscope, but they are working with frequencies, and they're demonstrating that, again, the laws of physics pertain even in illness. But the important factor here is that it can be duplicated. You've got much better equipment today than Rife ever dreamed about, and even Lee DeForest ever dreamed about in his day.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Steve, you've probably heard of the work of Dr. Full, electroacupuncture diagnostic and plugging in Germany, and lots of people using the acupuncture media as a way of using sometimes laser lights to activate. Is this in any way similar to putting energy frequencies through the body?
Yes, there's no question about it. You're working with the electromagnetic spectrum, and as we mentioned, it's going to burst at the seams. We're very close all over the world with Nordenson's work, shrinking cancer tumors with electricity, with the Russians' work. As soon as that becomes more prevalently known, that they are shrinking cancer tumors up to 90% by using magnetic fields, that there are certain magnetic fields that cancer absolutely cannot survive in because you reverse the polarity of the cell structure. You will find that the volt techniques, the electroacupuncture that's being used, all are in that electromagnetic spectrum, and you can electrocute. I'm going to use it very simplistic. You can electrocute any living organism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Okay, David.
For your financing, are you going to maybe make an appeal to all of us? We could send donations in to you for this specific project.
I wish.
What we did is we did set up a World Research Fund, and that fund was just set up to handle this type of specific need, where we actually do current tests on things that have not been used or not currently being used now, to revalidate that particular thing. And so anyone who would like to donate to that, to the World Research Fund, it would be just designated for that type of natural research.
And will you be having a newsletter, perhaps, for those of us who donate?
Oh, yes. In fact, we will be getting in a little bit later into the show of what the World Research Foundation actually is, because, again, we're a repository for a lot of data. But just before the break, I want to mention again that we have a booklet that is available that describes the Rife microscope, the principles, the various diseases. And for people who want to send in a donation of $2 or more to the foundation, we'd be very happy to send out this booklet, which is a reprint of the 1944 article that was published in the Smithsonian Institute of the U.S. government, in their exact words in the Smithsonian, saying that they witnessed under the Rife microscope disease organisms such as tuberculosis, cancer, sarcoma, strep, typhoid, leprosy, all succumbing when certain lethal frequencies were applied. That is from the Smithsonian Institute's own editors.
Thank you very much, Steve. That's magnificent.
Thank you.
All right, David.
Bye-bye, Bill.
Good to have you aboard.
Bye.
We're 15 minutes past 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. With me, Steve and Laverne Ross of the World Research Foundation. We're talking about Royal Rife, his microscope, his work. Nobody cared. Many died. Hello, Craig.
Hello to you, Bill. Nice to hear you.
Good to hear you.
Well, I'm glad the previous caller covered some of the questions I wanted to bring up, but I still have a lot left. First of all...
I know you're talking a long way away from Milpitas or someplace, so speak up, Craig. We're having a little bit... There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. He was asking if you have specifications and plans, etc., for the frequency generators. What about for the microscope? Could a duplicate of that be built?
The microscope, there was never any patent taken on it, and the specifications were really not written down anywhere. Rife at the time did not write them down. There were some general descriptions that were given in this booklet, which we will be sending out to those inquirers, but the specifics, because he used very, very unique principles. He used prisms and crystals in this microscope. Was very, very unique, and it does not exist in print anywhere.
And didn't he put anything down in form of notes, or were they just lost?
A lot of work was lost. A lot of records were lost, but the actual microscope, again, is still in existence. The basic structure is known. The concept of using counter-rotating Risley prisms where you are heterodyning light, that is well described in this little booklet. So there's quite a lot that can be done. We're just choosing to reconstruct this in an ethical way so that it is presented properly, that it is revalidated, because this is something that is so valuable that it should be done correctly and accurately and represented.
Yes, it certainly sounds like it. What strikes me is that that microscope, being such an advance over previously achieved optics, you would think somebody would have submitted that for Nobel Prize consideration.
There was in fact, we would like to interject that an individual who was Rife's assistant the last 15 years of Rife's life, John Crane, who is very, very responsible for the preservation of all these materials, had related to us that Rife's name was submitted to the Nobel people, and he was turned down basically because he did not have a doctorate.
I mean, after all, we've got to get first things first.
And I think if you do a little bit more checking, you'll find that that particular body has a tendency to only award to those who do have the credentials as far as the degrees. However, one should ask in the course of history how many remarkable achievements have come from those who were not necessarily degreed from college.
I don't think Madame Curie had her doctorship whenever she...
I don't think...
Well, you referred to him as Dr. Rife. Was he a medical doctor then?
No, actually, that is an interesting facet of the story. Everybody, the other doctors, lovingly referred to him as Dr. Rife, and it caught on. However, he was not actually a doctor, even a medical doctor. But what he was an incredible microscopist, and he was a tremendous engineer. He did have a great knowledge of medicine over his years. And again, he had the most credible medical authorities of the day working with him step by step.
Just out of curiosity, what was his educational background?